All right, so we're on to the last principle or rule, 17, or I guess it's actually technically 18. Getting rich is about becoming financially free and not clout or power or to show off or whatever reason that most people do it. And I understand it to a degree, right? I mean, I think it's pretty well everybody's goal, at least at some point, to become very wealthy, right? At the very least, wealthy. And most people confuse the idea, essentially, is that people think that it's about power or clout or to show off or whatever, but the most important thing is becoming financially free, right? I mean, a good point here is that something like a quarter of people making $250,000 a year still live paycheck to paycheck, right? So making a lot of money doesn't matter if it doesn't come with becoming at least more financially free than you are before, with the ultimate goal of becoming completely financially free, right? So the point I would bring up here is, as you make more money, if you're not saving and investing more, you're really not doing yourself any good. Because, and my point here would be very simple, is that let's just say you go from making $50,000 to $100,000, right? And you're currently saving, I don't know, $100 a month. If you don't go up to $200, $300, $400, $500, then you're really wasting your time, right? And this is another good example when it comes to business, right? I mean, if you have a business, and let's just say the business is growing, if you're not putting more into the business over time, let's just say you put the same amount in no matter what, the business is not going to grow nearly as much as if you're compounding that, right? And as the business grows, then you maybe start to live a little bit more lavishly, right? But the first step should always be to invest more, right? That should always be the first step, right? I mean, a good way of putting it would be, okay, well, let's just say you are given $1 million. What would you do with it? Right? I mean, I know exactly what I would do with it, right? It depends if you have a house or not, right? I mean, that's something that, let's just say you do have a house, just for sake of argument, right? I mean, I would take probably 10 to 20% of that into Bitcoin. I would probably, I'd maybe lavishly spend, $100,000, right? Let's just be honest here. I wouldn't lie and I'm going to save 100% of it. No, I would probably take 100,000 or so, and whether it's a car or vacations or a combination of the two, that's probably what I would do, right? And then the other part would be maybe a rental property, right? Maybe 300,000, just an apartment or something like that. And then the rest of it would go into stocks, right? I mean, that's exactly what I would do, right? Probably, I'd say 20% Bitcoin. So again, 200,000, 100,000 you spend, and then so the rest you have 700. Let's say split that evenly between an investment property and stocks. That's what I would do, right? And again, the average person, they'd probably say, "Oh yeah, I do this or I do that," but would they actually do it? Probably not. And people say, "Oh, what makes you different?" Well, I mean, just look at the way you currently are. I mean, I'm currently saving $1,500 a month, on a fairly average salary, right? So how many people are doing that, right? I mean, I bet you the majority of people making $250,000 a year, even $500,000 a year, aren't even saving that much, right? So that's the point I wanted to get across here, is people confuse becoming rich as, and this is another good point here. It's like, how many people out there are 50, 60 years old and they're making a lot of money, but they're still working? And I understand that you need to have some purpose. You can't just retire and golf 24/7 or something like that. You need to have some form of purpose. But a lot of people are working a fairly grueling job, or to where you could be doing, like, if you're an ER doctor or a surgeon or something, you're making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. It's like, that's a fairly grueling job. A lawyer, right? I mean, you're putting in a lot of hours, right? I mean, why would you not at least scale back? Right? I mean, that's something that I think is the minimum, right? I mean, there's other options too. But people who become very successful, typically they do it because they work 60, 70, 80, maybe even more hours a week for a good 10 or 20, maybe even more years, Like most of the time, it's not an overnight thing, right? So that's just my point. It's very simple. It's like, would you rather live a moderately lavish lifestyle, but, you know, not be able to retire until you're 60, or maybe you live a little below your means and retire when you're 40? To me, I would choose the latter, but most people would rather, you know, live paycheck to paycheck and live their lavish lifestyle, but work till they're 65. Rather, if you simply took that extra $1,000 or $2,000 a month you're spending on garbage you don't really need to and invested that, well, you'd retire 20 years earlier probably. So that's simply my point, right? Again, a lot of people are going to disagree. That's fine. I really don't care. It's just my opinion, right? So anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up today. If you liked the video, hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.